Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We start the new June 24 series, question paper 22, and this is the first video on that. As we all know, this paper is for 1 hour and 45 minutes. It's not for 2 hours, and the total marks is 80 marks. The total marks are 80, and there's no section A or section B. That has been abolished. That was used to be in the old syllabus, and the whole paper is compulsory, and there's no choices anymore. Question number 1, figure 1.1 shows two cells from the leaf of a plant observed using a light microscope. So you can see two cells, and complete table 1.1 to identify the structures labeled A and B. What is A? A is the chloroplast and B is the vacuole or the sap in the vacuole. You could say vacuole or sap in the vacuole is fine. And describe the function. So the function of the chloroplast is photosynthesis, or you could have said makes glucose, or you could have said makes starch. And B, the sap vacuole, and that is basically for storage, or you can even say turgor, or you can even say support. So any of those words would have been acceptable for me to give you the 4 marks. There are 4 marks, so that means there's 1 mark for the naming and 1 mark for the function, here. So this is how the 4 marks would be given. So everybody must know that. It's how the 4 marks would be given. So 4 marks for this. Then state one structure that is not visible in figure 1.1 but would be visible in the cytoplasm in an electron micrograph of the same two cells. Well, you could see mitochondria in electron micrograph, and so you would get a mark for that, or you could have written ribosomes. These two are of course in the syllabus, but any of these you could have said mitochondria or ribosomes, but it says one structure that is not visible, so there's only 1 mark for it. And of course, if you gave me some structures which are not even in the syllabus, like the rough ER or the Golgi apparatus, well, I would give you a mark for that. Then question number 2, organisms can be classified into groups using the features they share. Fish are one of the main groups of vertebrates. State 3 main features that is used to classify an organism as a fish. Number 1, they have gills. Number 2, they have scales. So gills 1 mark, scales another mark, or a scaly skin, and then they have fins. That could have got you a mark as well. So there are 3 marks and 3 points: gills, scales, fins. If you wrote any of these, you got a mark. You can also say eggs with no shells, surrounded by jelly, or cold-blooded, or external fertilization. So all those could also have got you a mark. Then it says state 2 main groups of vertebrates other than fish. What can they be? They can be mammals, they can be birds, they can be reptiles or amphibians. So I'm giving you 4 examples, but you have to only give me 2 out of any of these 4. And it says what? 2 main groups of vertebrates other than fish. So mammals are mammals are vertebrates, birds are vertebrates, reptiles, amphibians are vertebrates. Then we come on to another very interesting question. Swordfish are large fish that live in the ocean. They have a long bony extension to the skull called sword. And figure 2.1 is a diagram of a swordfish. The binomial name of the swordfish is Ziphius gladius. Define the term species. What is species? Group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offsprings. So a group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offspring, that gives you the 2 marks. Then state the species name. So this is always the genus, this is always the species. So the species name will be gladius. That is the species name. Swordfish swim near the surface of the ocean where the water temperature is low. During evolution, swordfish developed a muscle behind each eye that warms the eyes and the brain to a temperature of that of the ocean. This feature gives swordfish improved vision. Name the process that led to the evolution of the muscle behind each eye of the swordfish. Natural selection. You see, those that had the muscle were better at an advantage. So their offsprings were more, and so that trait then continued, and then majority of them had that beneficial trait. or that beneficial muscle behind the eye. So natural selection would be the 1 mark for that. Then suggest a reason why the evolution of this feature has adapted swordfish to survive in the ocean. You see, if they are at an advantage, they can see better and they can find and hunt and prey, hunt the prey or the food. So if they have more food, they have more energy, they will outcompete the other animals, then they can see the predators. If they can see the predators, then they can avoid being eaten by them or being attacked by them. Then they can better see their mates and they can choose their mates, and when they choose the mate, then they mate, and then that results in producing more offsprings, so increases the population. Now some of you might be able to do this question, but then you don't word it very carefully, and when you don't word it carefully, then we as examiners can't give you marks. So if we have said they can see better, so when they see better, they can find more food for themselves. More food means more energy. They will outcompete the other animals because they'll be smarter and they will be able to see the predators, so they can be avoid being attacked and eaten. And then they can see more mates, and they will mate, and then of course they will produce more offsprings, and their this type will of course increase in number. Coming to question number 3, table 3.1, using terms from the list below to match each description in a term. A form of a gene that codes for one of a pair of contrasting features. Allele, a form of a gene that always has an effect when it is present. Dominant. Having two different forms of a gene for a particular feature. Heterozygous. Heterozygous means it can be big A or small a. This is heterozygous. Having two of the same form of a gene for a particular feature. Homozygous. Can be homozygous dominant, can be homozygous recessive. So homozygous, then the combination of alleles that an organism has, in its chromosomes. Genotype. Phenotype is the physical characteristic. So this would be your 5 marks. Then coming to the next part of the question, figure 3.1 is a diagram of part of a molecule of DNA taken from a bacterial cell. State the term which describes the shape of the DNA molecule. Double helix. This is a double helix. Then most of the DNA in bacteria is found in one large loop in the cytoplasm. Name another structure in the bacterial cells which contains DNA. Plasmid. State the name of the type of molecule that is represented by the letters A, T, G, and C. It's a nitrogenous base. Well, you just have to say a base, but nitrogenous base was actually what you had to write. The word was base that was needed. So A, T, G, and C are nitrogenous bases. And then we come to the part 4 of the question. Outline the importance of the sequence of A, T, G, and C in the DNA. They code for proteins, determines the sequence of amino acid, determines the shape of the protein. So number 1, it codes for proteins. Number 2, determines the sequence of amino acids and determines the shape of the protein. Question number 4, figure 4.1 is simplified diagram of a nephron. Structure P, structure R, glomerulus, direction of flow Q. Identify each of the structures labeled P, Q, and R. Now, what is P? Let's look at P. What is P? P is the Bowman's capsule. You can see here P is the Bowman's capsule. Then Q is this. This is the loop of Henle. This is the loop of Henle. You can see this. This is the loop of Henle. This is the loop of Henle. Then R is the collecting duct, which is going to carry all this, and is going to enter the finally is going to come out of the kidney into the ureter. So you had to first label these. Now this is of course in the new syllabus. This wasn't in the old syllabus. Now all these are underlined in the mark scheme, which means that no other word would have been acceptable. You had to say Bowman's capsule, you had to say loop of Henle, you had to say collecting duct, the whole of it. And you could not have written anything else, even if it was something which appeared that you were describing it. No, but it said identify, so it's the name. Name the organ which contains many nephrons. Well, that's a very simple question. Kidney, I'm sure everybody knows that. Nephrons, nephrologist, a person who treats kidney disorders. Name the organ that stores fluid S. S is the urine before it is released from the body. That is the urinary bladder. That is what is going to store this urine. So that was an easy question as well. Then coming to the B part of the question, table 4.1 shows the composition of a sample of fluid S from a healthy person. The person that provided the sample of fluid S eats a balanced diet. So glucose was 0, protein was 0, ions were 1.50, and urea was 2.0. State why it is important that urea is removed from the blood in fluid S. Why is urea removed from the blood? Because it's toxic. It's a toxic metabolic waste. If there's too much urea in the blood, it results in uremic coma. The brain stops functioning. That's why we have to put people who have kidney failure on dialysis. Use your knowledge of the function of a nephron to explain the concentration of each of the following components of fluid S. Glucose and protein. So what will happen to the glucose and the protein? Basically, what is going to happen, it enters the Bowman's capsule, it is filtered, but then is reabsorbed back into the blood. Similarly, in the protein also, that is not filtered. That is in the blood, but it does not filter, so it does not enter the Bowman's capsule. And the reason why they don't enter the Bowman's capsule, because they are too large and they cannot pass through this membrane, which is enclosing the Bowman's capsule. Of course, you study it in great detail in your A levels. So use your knowledge to explain the concentration of why there is no glucose in the urine. Why? Because the glucose in the blood does enter the Bowman's capsule, but then when it is filtered out, but then it is reabsorbed back into the blood. So 3 points for that. For protein, then you gave me 2 points. It does not enter the Bowman's capsule, or you can say it does not. There's no filtration of it, or you say it is not removed from the blood. The reason why is because protein is a very large molecule. Last question, explain what would happen to the concentration of ions in fluid S if the person drank a large volume of water several hours before the sample was collected. What would happen to the concentration of ions? It's just like having 2 teaspoons of sugar in a glass of water and 2 teaspoons of sugar in a big jug which contains 4 glasses of water. Now the same ions are in a large amount of water, so ion concentration will decrease. The reason why, because there is more water in the urine, and this is the main reason why the kidney is able to do homeostasis is to keep the concentration of water in the blood constant, because the water content in the blood is very important. The water should not become dilute or concentrated, because that is what is going to then form the tissue fluid which bathes the body cells. And if the tissue fluid is too concentrated or too dilute, it's going to upset the osmotic potential in the cells, in the body cells. They can lose water and shrink, or they can fill up with water and then burst. So we don't want that to happen. So basically the ion concentration will decrease. Why? Because there will be a higher volume of water in the urine, and this is an important part of homeostasis, to keep the concentration of water in the blood the same at all times. So iron concentration decreases. Why? Because there's more water in the urine, and this is an important part of homeostasis, keeps the blood water content constant. Question number 5, figure 5.1 is a diagram of a pineapple growing on a pineapple plant. There's the crown, there's the pineapple, there's the leaf, there are the suckers, there's the stem, there's the roots, and this is the ground level. Pineapple roots can be grown on farms by removing the suckers from a parent plant and planting these in the ground to form new plants. State the type of reproduction used to grow pineapple plants in this way. So, what will be the name of reproduction? This is asexual. Then it says state two advantages and two disadvantages of producing pineapple plants in this way. This is a very important part of the syllabus. Naturally, the advantage of asexual reproduction is very rapid. Many new plants formed, only one parent needed. Plants have the same desirable features and they ripen at the same time, so easier to harvest. Disadvantages, they have some undesirable features and maybe some useful features, and they're not adapted if change in the environment. They ripen at the same time, so price goes down. So disadvantages are a few, which are of course the fact that if there's a disease, then all of them will die. That is another major disadvantages of asexual reproduction, having them all the same genetic makeup. So advantages, number one is very rapid, this form of reproduction, because the sexual reproduction results, it's going to take a long time because it's going to be pollination, fertilization, flower formation, then fruit formation, then seed formation, then seed dispersal. So it's a very, very long process. This is very easy. You just take the cuttings and you just plant them. Greater yield, only one parent plant needed, ripen at the same time, so easier to harvest. And they all have the same desirable feature. If the taste is good, then all of them taste the same. If they look nice, well, all of them look nice. Disadvantages, we've talked about this, have some same undesirable. The disadvantages are same undesirable feature, not adapted to change in the environment, ripen at the same time, so price goes down. So maximum 2 for this and maximum 2 for the advantages. Pineapples are an important crop in Hawaii, USA. They were introduced in Hawaii from South America. Birds called hummingbirds pollinate pineapple flowers. If pollinated, pineapple fruits develop and they contain hard, inedible seeds. Inedible means they can't be eaten. If not pollinated, pineapple fruits develop without seeds. Hummingbirds are not found in Hawaii. Suggest why it is illegal to introduce hummingbirds into Hawaii. 4 marks. With hummingbirds, sexual reproduction is going to take place. So that means pollination and fertilization. So seeds will be formed. But then the humans or the consumers don't like the seeds because the seeds are inedible. We don't eat them. So we'll have to remove the seeds. So this will result in reduced income or business or reduced economy of that country. Another problem would be that the hummingbird introduces diseases. Hummingbirds compete with other species of birds, and they might be competing for the same food, or they might be competing for the same space or the same trees where they nest. So, why it is illegal to introduce hummingbirds into Hawaii? So, these were the main reasons, and of course, you had to give me any 4 reasons. There are, of course, many more given in the mark schemes, but you have to give me any 4 of those. So I've just explained it to you, and now I've worded it for you. Hummingbirds would cause pollination and fruit formation and flower and fruit formation. So this would be sexual reproduction in pineapple. This would result in seeds, but then the humans don't like to buy pineapple with seeds because the seeds cannot be eaten, so seeds are thrown away. So if you buy a kilo of pineapple and there are 250 grams of seeds in it, well then of course you have less to eat from. Then this will result in reduced income, business, money. Hummingbirds introduce diseases, compete with other species of birds, and compete for food. B part of the question says pineapple contains a mixture of protease enzymes called bromelain. When bromelain is added to its substrate, a product is formed. Complete the word equations for the substrate and the product. Well, of course, if it is a protease, then it works on proteins. And then what are they converted to? That is converted to amino acids, because protein is a large molecule made up of many, many amino acids joined together. So this would get you the 2 marks of protein and amino acids. The effect of changing pH on the activity of the enzyme found in bromelain was investigated. The results of the investigation are shown. percentage of maximum enzyme activity, and then the pH. So maximum enzyme activity is at pH 8. 100% activity is on pH 8, and it is between something 70 to 100%. We're talking about percentage of maximum activity. To assist digestion, some people swallow bromelain in the form of a powder with their food. Use the information in figure 5.2 and the knowledge of the human digestive system to discuss the effectiveness of using bromelain in this way. Now, why would we take bromelain in the form of a powder with their food? Number one, the increased surface area of the powder. Because powder is a lot of small granules, so it will have more surface area, more enzymes, so more collisions, and then highest activity is pH 8. High activities across all the pH range, anything from pH 3 to 12. Then the bromelain enzyme will not be denatured. The stomach acid is pH 2. Here it probably won't work, but then it will work in the small intestine and the ileum, which is a highly alkaline, not highly alkaline, but alkaline, so works at pH 8. Then, so this will be effective in the stomach and the small intestine. So you can see the wordings of it is increased surface area of the powder, more enzymes, highest activity at pH 8, high activities across all pH range, enzyme not denatured, the stomach acid is pH 2, small intestine is alkaline, active in the stomach and the small intestine. Question number 6. Flowering plants are sometimes grown in soil to provide cut flowers that can be displayed. A gardener watered flowering plants with the fertilizer solution containing dissolved chemicals. Table 6.1 shows the information printed on the label of the container of fertilized powder used to prepare this solution. Nitrates 4, phosphates 4, sulfur 1, magnesium 0.5. To prepare the fertilizer solution, the gardener dissolved 20 gram of the fertilizer powder in 10 dm cube of water. Calculate the total mass of sulfur in the fertilizer solution prepared by the gardener. Space for working. So very simple, sulfur is 1 gram in 100 grams of the fertilizer, and then 20 gram of the fertilizer, how much will it be? It will be 1/5. This 20 is 1/5 of 100. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. 0.2 grams. So there was 1 mark for 0.2 and 1 mark for the gram for the units, which many of you forgot. Then we come on to the next part of the question. Explain which chemical component of the fertilizer solution is the most important to plants for making the leaves of plants green in color. Magnesium. And the magnesium is important. Why? Because it is important for the chlorophyll molecule which makes the plants green. So 1 mark for magnesium, 1 for chlorophyll is for 4 marks. And why the chemical component, the production of enzymes by cells in the leaves of the plant? That would be nitrates, because there's nitrogen in the amino acid. So nitrates and amino acids used to make amino acids, and then amino acids used to make proteins. So basically the production of enzymes, so we need amino acids. So nitrates and amino acid, that would get you your 4 marks. Part 3, the chemical components of the fertilizer solution are absorbed by the root hair cells of the plants are then transported to the leaves. Complete the words to name the 3 main tissues in the pathway taken by the chemical components of the fertilizer solution from the root hair cells to the leaves. The first letter of each word has been done for you. So C cortex, X xylem, and M mesophyll. So this would get you your 3 marks. Then coming to the next part of the question, it says when flowers from the plants are cut and used for display, the leaves are removed before each stem is placed in water. A solution containing sucrose is often added to this water. Sucrose is not needed in fertilizer solution used to water plants growing in soil. Explain the benefit of providing sucrose to cut flowers. Yeah, because the cut flowers are not photosynthesizing, So this sucrose is going to produce the glucose, and sucrose is not produced. Sucrose travels in the phloem for respiration and energy release, and then the flowers will last longer. Yeah, because now these cut flowers are not photosynthesizing, so they're not producing glucose, also no sucrose being made. Sucrose, this sucrose solution which you have added to the water, then this is going to travel in the phloem and is going to be used for respiration and energy, and flowers are going to last longer. Question number 7. Plastics are produced in very large amounts by industrial processes around the world. These plastics can enter ecosystems as pollution. The total mass of plastics produced globally in the year 2020 was 367 million tons. It is estimated that 3% of all plastic produced globally each year enters the oceans as plastic pollution. Calculate the total mass of plastic pollution that is estimated to have entered the ocean during 2020. Space for working. So the answer to this was 11 million tons, or 3% of 367. Some packaging is made from biodegradable carbohydrates. Microorganisms break down larger carbohydrate molecules into smaller molecules. Identify this process and name one type of organism that is involved. So decomposition would get you 1 mark, and the other would be bacteria and fungi. So if you wrote bacteria and fungi, or you could have just written one of them, bacteria and or fungi. Most plastics that enter ecosystems as pollution are non-biodegradable. Describe the harmful effects of non-biodegradable plastics on both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems. Remain for a very long time, forever in the environment, breaks up into more plastic, smaller particles. It can strangulate or trap or suffocate or injure the animals. The animals eat it and they choke on it, or it blocks their digestive systems. It enters the food chains and the food webs, then it accumulates in the top predators, then covers the habitat or covers plants and blocks the light. Less light, so no photosynthesis. Then if you burn them, it's combustion and it's toxins from the plastics. So lots of points for you for these 7 marks. Remains for a very long time, breaks up into small particles of plastic. It can trap or suffocate or injure animals. The animals eat it, blocks their digestive system, enters food chains, accumulates in the top predators, covers the plants so it blocks light, so then plants cannot photosynthesize. If you burn them, then it's combustion. That's another form of pollution. And then toxins from the plastics are, of course, damaging the whole environment everywhere. Thank you, everyone. This finishes this paper, and I hope this is helpful to you. And please do leave any comments if you have for any improvements that I can make to these videos. Thank you very much.